Hi, this is Optimus Primal, and this is Silverbolt's Transformer Review.
Evening everybody, Silverbolt here, back for another Transformers review, going to be doing, as per the title page, Masterpiece Grimlock. Now, reason this video is coming about is, of course, it is coming up to about 6 months to AA. So, preparations are starting, it's going to take shape very soon, and I thought I'd do a video of a toy that I got at last AA, and it coincides with a comic, thanks Amy, that I got at last AA. So, if I recall correctly, this was actually the first thing that I picked up as soon as I walked into the hall from Andy at Kapow. So, here we go. Now then, I have of course already done a Grimlock video, but this is going back when, well, dinosaurs still walked the earth, frankly, in YouTube video years. So this one is going to focus on his much updated storyline, mostly focusing through Maximum Dinobots. This comic story follows on from the Infiltration, Escalation, Devastation storylines, but it is before the death of Sunstreaker, which I detailed in my last video. Now, is it before the death of Sunstreaker? Yes, it is before the death of Sunstreaker. Now then, the IDW origins of the Dinobots, and one of the things, of course, they've changed the name is D-I-N-O is gone, and it's now D-Y-N-O. Bots. The Dinobots are a group, it's similar to their original storylines. They're a group of misfits who attend the underground gladiatorial arenas. There they gain almost mutual respect with a group that would become the Predacons. However, the Autobot security forces crash the place and the Dinobots escape in the ensuing chaos. Now, the Dinobots run afoul of Shockwave. Now, Shockwave in the IDW part lines continues a rivalry that was begun in the Marvel in the 80s and 90s comics. When Shockwave steals a load of the Energon that the Dinobots have hoarded, the Dinobots, who are at this point very loosely affiliated with the Autobots, rush off and go to Earth and chase Shockwave to Earth, where they land, and they land in what in the Marvel comics was pretty much just a savage land, for those of you who know your X-Men stuff. And the Dinobots reformat themselves, realising that, similar to the Beast Wars storyline, in that they need techno-organic forms in order to survive the Energon build-up, take on the form of dinosaurs. As such. Anyway, the battle with Shockwave ensues, and the Dinobots and Shockwave end up in Stasis Lock. Grimlock being the last to fall, but completely unable to totally overwhelm Shockwave. Skip forward a few hundred years, well, a few million years, the Dinobots are woken up. Now, Grimlock escapes the control of the group that is controlling them, and ends up a rather unwitting pawn of Scorponok. Scorponok in his modern Headmaster trilogy. In his modern Headmaster design. When they quickly realise that they can't use Grimlock for their own nefarious purposes, they decide they're going to use him as a scapegoat instead. So what they do is they teleport Grimlock, who is of course looking for his other teammates, land him in the middle of a populated area, and send in a load of clones. The plan being that the Headmaster clones that have been crafted from the body of Sunstreaker would take out Grimlock, and they'd be the big hero. Doesn't quite work that way, for the simple fact that Grimlock's a bit of a badass still. So they send in the other Dinobots. Now in this one, the Dinobots aren't as close-knit a group as you might think. They don't trust each other very much, and they certainly don't trust Grimlock, especially Slag. And because they're a group of misfits, so they're a group of loners anyway, who are drawn together out of a mutual like of basically just destruction. And they do feel very betrayed by Grimlock, in that at first they refuse to stand alongside him, and they actually abandon him in Maximum Dinobots, until Grimlock is basically surrounded by an entire horde of enemies, and it looks like it's all going to be done for our fair leader, until the Dinobots come back and say, you know what, yeah, we're misfits, yeah, we don't trust you, but we're Dinobots, we back each other up. Bit of a spoiler alert here, so if you haven't read Maximum Dinobots, you're about to find out a bit of the nasty ending, in that Sludge dies. very randomly and very strangely, it was something that really took me by surprise when I read it myself, is that Sludge dies at the end of Maximum Dinobots, and Grimlock, suddenly feeling for pretty much the first time that, you know, being part of a team is actually quite important in many regards, gives him his own life, gives him part of his own energy to restore Sludge to life. Ironic, seeing as, you know, in the original cartoon continuities and the original comic continuities, Sludge is always seen as the gentlest of the Dinobots. He's always seen as the nicest, as the most congenial. Thus ends pretty much the storyline of Maximum Dinobots, and at the moment, Grimlock's involvement in it until Ultra Magnus comes to Earth, and he suddenly finds himself, well, he's got a missing criminal, he's got an MIA team, he's got a Megatron's master scientist at his disposal, and in all these good graces, the Dinobots are let off, except for Grimlock, who is sent to Garrus 9. Garrus 9, of course, is very important for the awesome comic that is The Last Stand of the Wreckers. So all the storylines tie in. Now, Grimlock's personality-wise in the IDW publishings is very much along the same lines as he is in the Marvel and the cartoon continuities, is that he's very violent, very blunt, very brutal. Doesn't really care about who gets in his way because he'll just go through them. And he has an almost Decepticon. I mean, a lot of the Autobots wonder why Grimlock is actually on the Autobot side at all, because Grimlock very much follows the ideology that Decepticons do, that might makes right. However, there's a bit to Grimlock that's not immediately apparent, and it's the one thing that stops him from going onto the Decepticon side of the fence, is that Grimlock hates bullies. Which is really ironic, because Grimlock in many regards is a bully. He uses his strength, his size, his power to get what he wants. So in some regards Grimlock is a bully, but Grimlock doesn't like to see people downtrodden. He doesn't like to see people victimised. So he will defend the weak, despite the fact he doesn't like them. So it makes him quite it gives Grimlock a very savage nobility in that he is he's very much I mean, Grimlock is the anti-hero of Transformers, of the Autobots. He is the anti-hero. But he's one of the most endearing ones, and like I mean, let's face it, all anti-heroes are quite endearing. I mean, look at Snape in Harry Potter. You know, people have raved about his character for so long, and Grimlock's along the same lines. One of the other things about Grimlock is, of course, his massive strength, something that they've always kept true. The writers of the Transformers comics where Grimlock has been concerned, I say writers, I mean mainly writer, as in Simon Furman, I've always kept true, is that Grimlock is one of the strongest of all the Autobots. At least for all the medium-sized, well, I say medium-sized Autobots, I say the prime-sized Autobots, in that he's one of the few who can go toe-to-toe with Megatron and give Megatron a severe run for his money. However, he does fall down against Shockwave. He can't quite beat Shockwave. How he'd fare up against Overlord, we don't know. Maybe that's something that they'll come up with another time. So they have kept that side of his personality. Now, of course, in the old comics, Grimlock does become leader of the Autobots, much to the rue of so many other of the Autobots that Grimlock is made leader to the point where he's eventually ousted. That hasn't come about in the IDW continuity, mainly because, of course, the focal point is Prime. So it's unlikely we're going to see Prime dying yet. Because let's face it, it wouldn't be a Prime if he didn't die. With Grimlock assuming command, me personally, I think it's very unlikely that Grimlock would assume command of the Autobots. He might take control of one of the factions, but he wouldn't control the main Autobot forces. Mainly because the likes of Prowl, Jazz, all of them are still knocking around. Maximum Dinobots, very, very good comic series. Artwork done by Nick Roche and James Diaz. And who's the writer? Oh, I forget who the writer is. Hang on, it revolves around Grimlock. So who could possibly be the writer for Maximum Dinobots? That's right, Simon Furman. Can I actually clear something up, by the way? A lot of people are under the impression that I hate Simon Furman. I don't. I really like his storylines. Some of them are really, really good. I just wish he'd used somebody other than Grimlock, Galvatron, or Unicron. So there we go. I do not dislike Simon Furman at all. Maximum Dynamax is a very good storyline for bringing out a lot of the personality that is within Grimlock, other than me, Grimlock Smash. And also the thing that makes him almost borderline Decepticon, as he is in the Marvel continuities, where he is very cruel. He tortures Blaster as a method of punishment. He doesn't care if the humans die, and he basically makes a Cardra out of the most bloodthirsty of all the Autobots. But, you know, he is... But at the same note, buried very deeply and very hard to see, there is in Grimlock a very, very noble soul. One of the things that, of course, that has always been around about Grimlock is the way he talks. Now, in the cartoons, it's obvious the way he talks, like, me Grimlock. You know, he talks like that because he's quite stupid. The comics changed that completely, and the comics have never gone back to the idea that Grimlock is stupid. And there's been numerous reasons as to why Grimlock talks the way he does. Some, you know, some ideas is that he puts it on, another is that it's a virus, another that it's damage from a weapon that's damaged his vocal components. That one always seems to be a little bit strange. I mean, why would a vocal component mean that you refer to yourself in the third person? That just seems a very, very, very precise amount of damage. A little bit strange. There we go. Later on, comics haven't even bothered trying to explain it. They just said, that's the way he talks, get over it. So there we go. I mean, even in the episode of Grimlock's New Brain that I would have referred to in my older video, I don't know if I did because I can't remember, it was that long ago, and I didn't watch it before I recorded this. You know, even then, he still talks to himself. He still refers to himself as Grimlock rather than I. So, there we go. Right then, Grimlock is, of course, a much, much loved character. Some might say overused. We won't go there. But he is a much loved character. And stories that revolve around Grimlock do sell very, very, very well. Anything to do with Grimlock tends to sell very, very well. Maximum Dinobots, for instance, was a much sought after comic until Last Stand of the Wreckers came out. And the fact that it ties in quite nicely with the current IDW publishings doesn't hurt it either at all, unlike, say, some of the Spotlights, which just seem to make no sense until you put them all together. And even then, it's still quite hard going at times. On to the toy. Now, this is, of course, the Masterpiece Grimlock version. This is the Hasbro version, so it differs from its Takara counterpart. Now, I bought the Hasbro version, mainly because I just never simply got around to buying the MP version. Well, the Takara proper version, so... And, you know what, I'm quite glad I did, because technically, the only Masterpiece that I have on display... the only Takara, if I take into account the 6, I'm not including Masterpiece Megatron in this, because as far as I'm concerned, that toy doesn't exist. It's buried in a box somewhere to be forgotten about. It's in the oubliette of Transformer boxes, somewhere in my house. I have 6 Masterpiece toys, MP Prime, MP Grimlock, and the 3 Seekers, and Magnus. Of them, only Thundercracker, cheers Dave, of the Seekers, only Thundercracker is Takara, and of the two Primes, Magnus is Takara, mainly because it hasn't been released by Hasbro as such. And I have the Toys R Us MP Prime, not the vile, foul, ugly, talking base, stale, orange, vomit-coloured one that they released later on. And this is the Hasbro one. And the next MP, of course, is of course Rodimus Hot Rod, which I am not getting until Hasbro released their version. I've heard some very mixed reviews about Hot Rod, and I'm very, very dubious about it. And plus, I want to see if they'll give us a Target Master with him, seeing as we're not getting his trailer. But there we go. Now then, the robot mode of Grimlock. Very, very, very similar to his G1 counterpart. Very, very similar. A nice little gimmick is in the tail. That if you have the tail, the head moves. Due to a connecting ratchet that runs down the spine and into the tail part itself. Grimlock, of course, in the cartoons has a flamethrower. This is detailed in his mouth. You can just see it there quite well. The arms move. And the claws are here, and each one moves on its own. It's all part of a spring. Okay. Another little interesting feature in this is, of course, in the Marvel Comics and the G1 cartoons, Grimlock's eyes were different colours. Here, he has blue eyes. However, with a little bit of a tomfoolery, as in, you pull this up, and you turn. Hold on, I can't actually do it with one hand. That's alright, I can't do it with two either. There we go. Helps if I can get my fingers under it to turn it. You can make his eyes red. Okay. I tend to keep him in the blue. I don't know. I just prefer the blue. Don't ask me why such a minor little thing as blue eyes matters, but I like the blue. So I keep my masterpiece Grimlock with blue eyes. Okay then. Now then, transforming him. From the head all the way down to about the hip joints is identical to the G1 Grimlock. I'm not going to transform on camera. I'm going to come back with his robot mode. For the simple fact is, transforming him, the feet are incredibly finicky. To transform the feet and the legs and all that are incredibly finicky. And it's already started to transform actually. The feet, and I will be here for a week. So I shall be back by the magic of modern technology in about a second. Right, back. A bit of a change location in case you haven't noticed. I'm now on the floor because the camera died in the middle of making the second part of the video. And the power cable doesn't actually extend to the top of the tower base. So now I'm sat on the floor. So back, hair's a little wet. Quick shower. And we have here Robot Grimlock. Now, sometimes I really give up. For the simple fact is, it took me, the camera didn't have enough time to go into standby mode before I transformed it. Go figure. Anyway, here we have Grimlock in his robot mode. Now, he comes with, actually no, I'll go into the detail on the light first, on the eyes. There you can see Grimlock currently has, oh that's chromy, blue eyes. If I move a little toggle at the back of his head, there we go, we get red eyes. So Grimlock has this nice little nifty double feature in that both the eyes and the top of his head, as in his dinosaur head, and his head, as it were, both change colour depending on which one you want. As I said before, I prefer the blue. So there we go. Now then, Grimlock comes with some accessories. This is the Hasbro version, so he comes with the Generation 1 comic King Grimlock crown, like thus, which is absolutely fugly and disgusting, and it's chromed cunk crap. Don't like it at all. Now then, he comes with two other accessories. The very signature for Grimlock double-barreled blaster rifle, and the other signature weapon of Grimlock that doesn't really appear in the cartoon, well, doesn't appear in the cartoon, but is of course quite prolific in his comic incarnations, the Energon sword, with that very, very distinctive diamond-shaped, well, crystalline-shaped blade. Very, very nasty. We want to get this sticking inside you. Now, this, of course, you might think this is a little strange. It's a little rather very clear plastic. There's a reason for that. If you put the sword or the blaster in the right hand, you get a very nice little effect, and I'm probably going to have to douse the light for this one. Bear with me. Right then, let's try this. I'm probably a little bit darker, but that's not the point. Now, if you press a button, rather large button, it's not a little dinky little button like there is on Optimus Prime, it's quite a large button to get this effect. Light piping! Quite good quality light piping as well, actually. The sword is nice. However, the blaster is even better. So there we go. Where this toy is concerned, I really do like him. His articulation, his look, his aesthetics, you know, the way he feels, the way he stands. I really like everything about the toy. I have one gripe. One gripe. His size. Now you might be thinking, you know what, this guy's bloody huge. But for a masterpiece he's not. And that is my biggest gripe with Grimlock. Let's put the light back on. Trying to do this without sticking my arse into the camera, because that, you know what, as much as I've got a good arse, you don't need to be seeing that. Anyway, you know, he's a good sized toy, but he's a bad sized Grimlock. He is the shortest of the lot. Even the Seekers tower over him. And of course, you know, the cartoon and comic both famously pick Grimlock as being, well, a lot bigger than that. So there you go, that's my biggest gripe against him. Of course, apart from the hula hoop crown. That is my biggest gripe against Grimlock. Is purely his size in both his dinosaur mode and his robot mode. Okay. Not an awful lot more I can say on Grimlock, to be completely honest. Very nice toy. Your Hasbro version or your MP version, it's entirely up to yourselves, whichever one you want. But for now, this is Silverbolt with Masterpiece Grimlock, signing off, saying au revoir, adios, a